Hello everyone, welcome back to Agri Farming. Today we are back with flower gardening design, ideas, tips and techniques. First of all, what is flower garden? A flower garden or floral garden is a garden where flowers are grown and displayed. Planting flowers add color and visual interest to any landscape. A splash of color among trees increase the appeal of outdoor spaces. Additionally, throughout the blooming season, planted flowers provide gardeners with flowers suitable for cutting and bringing indoors, saving money that would otherwise be spent at a florist. Flowers planting have environmental beneficial and plants help to remove pollutants from the air. During the process of photosynthesis, the flower's leaves absorb carbon dioxide and release oxygen. Additionally, plants' flowers can help to hold soil in its proper place, reducing erosion and flooding. Growing a flower garden is a beautiful way to explore the world of gardening and create a beautiful landscape for your home. So, setting up a flower gardening at home is not that tough. So now, let's get into the flower garden design. What is the purpose of flower garden? While the reason for having a flower garden can be nothing more than for enjoyment and enhancing the landscape, having a focus on theme can create the design process easier. Some possibilities include cut flower, butterfly, moonlight, oriental, water, fragrance, and woodland, a collection of one type of plant or a particular season such as autumn. The first step is select a location. The best site will be one that gets lots of sunlight, has rich soil, and drains well. Other considerations for sites contain sunny spots along the back boundary, in a corner that hasn't been planted, or behind or beside the garage. Small spaces can hold a set of plants. The basic kinds of flowering plants are annuals and perennials. As far as gardens are concerned, these are two basic types of flowering plants. Annuals go through their total life cycle in one growing season, sprouting from a seed, increasing leaves and roots, producing flowers, creating the seeds, and then dying. They are popular with gardeners since, with reasonable care, they bloom their heads off all season. Perennials are plants whose root structures stay alive underground for several years or even decades. The plant above the soil may go dormant and die back in winter, but the plant is still alive and still will sprout again in the spring. Soil quality for flower gardening. Annuals can develop in poorly prepared soil, while a healthy soil contributes to optimum growth, but perennials seldom survive more than 1 year if the soil is not properly prepared. A rich, black loam high in organic matter is chosen. In the fall prior to the planting, incorporate compost, leaf mold, or peat moss to develop soil quality. Spread 4 to 6 inches of the material on the garden and spade it in. In the spring season, before planting, spade the soil again. For soil fertility and pH requirements, flowering plants require a complete nutrient supplement containing nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium to grow well. The source can be an organic or rock powder produced or a synthetic fertilizer. Some annuals, perennials, and wildflowers will bloom mainly prolifically in rather poor soil. The soil pH range of 6 to 6.5 is desirable for most plants. You can make the beds according to your preference, such as balcony, container, or pot, terrace, and indoors. For propagation of plants, flowering plant propagation through from seed, cuttings, or division depending on species. Consult a dependent preference for information on individual plants. For planting, when should you plant the flowers? You can start seeds for this and other cool season plants indoors through early February. Seedlings should be ready for transplant outdoors in March month, depending on the variety. Beginning your year by starting seeds for cool season flowers can affect in color spring garden. For the seed, you can follow the seed packet instruction for distance apart, correct depth of planting, and proper timing. Timing is important because some seeds are not frost or cold tolerant and must be sown when the soil is warm. Seeds sown in the fall or early spring may need freezes to break seed dormancy. Cover the seeds with fine soil and water thoroughly. Biennials or any perennials will not bloom the first year from seed. The fastest growing flower seeds are those that germinate in 14 days or less and flower within 70 days. These include marigold, nasturtium, annual phlox, and sunflowers. How to design the bed. Using graph paper to design the bed lines and plant replacement is the most efficient way to plant the garden. Flower beds can be created by laying flexible garden hose or twine on the ground until the suitable form is obtained or by using dribble or limestone. Bed lines can be straight or rounded, but curved lines are further interesting. Planning the design with the correct spacing between plants will assure that there is the right number of plants for the design. Stay taller plants to the back of the border and those that are low in the front. The color choice is personal preference. There are many vibrant primary and soft pastel colors available, so many combinations are possible. Warm reds, pinks, and yellow make the garden appear larger and closer. For bulb planting, plant as soon as the bulbs are received from the supplier to prevent drying out, or plant as soon as conditions permit. The ideal time for spring blooming bulbs is September and October month, but bulbs can be planted until the ground freezes. Bulbs found in a forgotten bag can be kept in cold storage and then planted through a winter thaw. Spring blooming bulbs are planted in the fall so they will have time to form a strong root structure before the ground freezes. Summer blooming bulbs are normally planted on or after the frost-free date in spring. Depth of planting is generally 2.5 to 3 times the diameter of the bulb measured to the bulb's shoulder. A small deeper in sandy soil, shallower in heavy soils. Individual recommendations for tubers, tuberous roots, and rhizomes do not follow this rule. Water requirement for flower garden. All plants require water to grow. For most flowers, 1 inch on clay soil to 1.5 on sandy soils is enough water for garden beds each week. Use a garden gauge to verify how much rain has fallen and reduce irrigation by that much. Ideally, water must be applied in the early morning. Water thoroughly so the soil is moistened to at least 8 inches deep. Frequent shallow sprinkling encourages shallow root system and disease development. Some plants are tolerant to very tolerant of dry rising conditions once established. Avoid touching the water to the leaves to avoid development of fungicide and other diseases. Mulching can be done so as to decrease the weeds and other organic mulches such as grass clipping or inorganic mulches such as black polythene, wind barrier with slits cut from plants help maintain even soil moisture and temperature and deter weeds. A small extra fertilizer when using wood mulches offset the nitrogen used up in the decomposition of the mulch. Sometimes organic mulches harbor pests such as earwigs and slugs, but this disadvantage is generally offset by the advantage of organics. Mulch depth must not exceed 2 inches. Now, let's get into the growing methods. Lightly scratch the soil surface to check to the crust. Remove weeds to reduce competition of water and nutrients. Take care not to damage the rising roots of desirable plants. If you are planting on pots or indoors or terrace, you can half bury it in a flower bed of gravel. When it comes to convenience, nothing beats flower planted in clay pots. Bulbs do fantastically well with this scheme with these party-colored tulips. Tile deck with built-in flower beds. A homeowner who is thinking of adding a deck must think about one with built-in planters. In this case, the deck has a tile floor, but planters can be built into decks made of wood. These beds delight the eye with pure white roses contrast with purple, lavender, and butter yellow sun drops. For raised block flower and plant bed, a raised bed made of pre-cut blocks and pavers makes the tending to the plants easier, especially if the gardener is getting on in years. Plant some ornamental grass, turf lily, chrysanthemums, asters, thrift, and perhaps a small ornamental tree. For perennial flower bed for summer long blooms, a flower bed filled with perennials is now the thing for blooms that last the entire summer when returns year after year. Try a flower bed with a serpentine border dominated by pink begonias edged with white flower. Break up with the pink and add height with discrete plantings of boxwood, barberries, daylilies, and tall orange canna lilies. Now, let's get into some of the flower garden design tips. Most plants are best kept outdoors where they can obtain the most direct sunlight. Flower bed size. Make your flower beds wide enough to include flowering shrubs or even small flowering trees. Try not to maroon woody plants in a sea of lawn. They look better incorporated with the planting beds. Wider beds that are at least 5 to 6 feet wide are more attractive and give more planting opportunities for that lush, layered look you're after. Give individual plants enough space. Place plants about as far apart as each plant's final spread. For example, a perennial that grows 24 inches wide must be about 20 to 24 inches from each neighbors. Choose a potting soil that includes an organic nutrient source whenever possible. This provides plants with slow-release source of nutrient throughout the gardening season and skips the synthetic chemical fertilizers that can burn tender roots or lead to leaf tip burn. Add fresh mulch to flower gardens every year. A 2 to 3 inch layer of mulch keeps weed from sprouting and helps the soil retain water, so you'll be weeding or watering less often. To keep container gardens from looking too busy, stick with just 1 or 2 main focal points per container and surround those featured plants with simpler textures, colors, and forms. The potting soil and compost mixture you use to fill the pots contains nutrients. Should still add supplemental fertilizer every 3 to 4 weeks throughout the growing season. Are you thinking about starting a flower garden but aren't sure if it's right for you? Let me tell you why you should. First point is great for pollinators. Honeybees and butterflies love flower gardens. Flowers are main source of nectar, which these wonderful insects use as their food source. In the process of retrieving the nectar, they inadvertently collect pollen from the stamen. Then, when they move to another flower of the same type, they deposit the pollen into the pistil, where the female reproductive organs are contained. This process of pollination is crucial for agriculture and food production because it allows plants to bear fruit and produce seeds. So, please be nice to honeybees. The second point is it's inexpensive. One of the great parts about starting a flower garden is how inexpensive it can be to get going. Gardening is one of those hobbies where you can spend money on fancy equipment and pre-started flowers, but you don't have to. You can save your money by getting a little thrifty. Use tools and equipment you have laying around in your workshop or garage. Your equipment won't have a big impact on how your garden turns out. The third point is health benefits. There are several health benefits to planting a flower garden as well. First, gardening is a great means of exercise, especially for middle-aged or elderly. Gardening aids in strength and flexibility due to bending, lifting, and stretching required. Digging, weeding, watering, and edging amount to a great workout. Second, gardening can actually boost your immunity. By working in and around the soil, you are exposing yourself to common bacteria and microbes. This allows your body to build up its immune system by creating antibodies. So, don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. That's all folks for today. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe to this channel and please ring the bell button to notify you whenever new video is uploaded. Thank you for watching.